This is the 2024 Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT, one of the fastest SUVs in the world. It's faster than the Lamborghini Urus Performante and even the new Ferrari Purosangue.
Porsche claims that this will do 0 to 60 in about 3.1 seconds. Many owners have reported 2.8. And Car and Driver for 2024 reported 2.8 as well. So clearly, Porsche, it's kind of like underrating it, playing the old BMW book.
To think that a car that weighs as much as two Alfa Romeo 4Cs stacked on top of each other can do 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and the quarter mile in 11.2 seconds is absolutely insane.
All that is possible thanks to a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 making 650 brake horsepower and 626 pound-feet of torque. It has made it to an 8-speed Tiptronic S, so it's essentially a ZF, which is kind of shocking because most Porsches use PDK, but this one, it doesn't. Which kind of brings me to the next point, is the launch control. One thing I noticed with this is that unlike the Macan GTS, which I love the launch control of that car, it goes at 5,000 RPM, and I love that needle going back and forth like that, moving fast, and then goes. This, it's a bit different because of that transmission, I think. It goes up to 2,000 RPM, activates the launch control, and then at about 3,000, you gotta wait a little bit, 3,000 RPM, you go, because that's when you get the most power. But it doesn't have the same effect from the Macan GTS, which I find it a little bit disappointing, I have to say. I love the way it goes like 5,000 RPM, pop, 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 and then pedal to the metal. This, on the other hand, is just more subtle. Now, having said that, this thing has the craziest launch control. It will pin you to your seat if you're not paying attention, and it will hurt you bad, your neck, if you're not all the way like this. And my camera guy realized that too when we were doing a couple of launch controls.
Having said that, it has the easiest launch control I have ever used in any V8 vehicle. It takes very little time to engage launch control. In fact, it's so easy and so addictive that you can do it anywhere.
I want to focus a bit more on these wheels. One thing I noticed is the center cap, which has the Porsche logo, of course, but it's also painted, matching the entire wheel. Then we have these massive brake calipers, which I have to say, the 2022 model had that bronze gold finish wheels, which look better. But because the caliper is so shiny, being yellow, with that beautiful Porsche letters, it makes the wheels disappear a little bit. So when you're looking at this car, the first thing you look at is the massive yellow calipers. The whole contrast is a bit off in my opinion. But what's important is what's this thing offer in terms of tires. So we've got 315s in the back and 285, so staggers. And of course, specifically engineered tires from Pirelli P0 Corsa. These have so much grip. Looking at them in slow motion, they're absolutely amazing. No spinning once you get them warmed up.
It is equipped with 17.3-inch front and 16.1-inch rear vented and drilled carbon ceramic discs, which likely cost about the same price as a new Nissan Sentra. So we decided to test them out. Ready?
Yep.
And
oh my God. Oh, I actually felt like someone was like pushing me from the like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then there is the way this massive SUV manages the air, starting with the front end. One thing I noticed is that besides this massive pocket here for the cooling, you also have these 3 flaps on each side, which to me, I don't understand, and I couldn't find the use of these. Could it be for cornering, how it channels the air through? Maybe. Or maybe it's a bug killer. Could be that too. The next thing is the double-decker front lip. You've got one at the bottom for downforce. So when you're going fast around the corner, this thing will give you the most downforce possible. It's also great for launch control, hence why there's so much grip, because the air is just pushing this massive SUV down, besides the fact that it's a 5,000-pound machine. And then you've got the massive grille in the front, which open and close. The next thing is the way this thing is designed in terms of the aerodynamics. If you look carefully, you've got this pod area here on top of the hood for the air to channel through. Then you have the mirrors, better designed than a standard SUV because you need the best aerodynamic. And then you've got the roof because it is a coupe, again, gives you that advantage for speed. Then you have these little wings on the side of the top spoiler, which kind of remind me of that movie Obelix and Asterix. They had those little wings on their helmets. These things look very similar, but they're not flat. They're actually curved a little bit to match the entire design of the side profile. Absolutely love that. Most importantly, this thing has a giant wing that you can control from inside. You can open it even in normal mode, but it does open automatically in different speeds.
And for 2024, Porsche decided to give it a new look. We have a new front end, including the headlights. The grille is different. Also the rear end, it is different. Now we have a light bar across for the taillights in comparison to the 2022 model, which was different to what we see in here. But everything else remains very much the same.
And then we jump into the interior, which of course it's new for 2024 for the SUVs and the coupes. The first thing you notice is the steering wheel, which now seems slightly thinner in comparison to the 2023 and 22 model, but you've got this nice suede finish with the stitching which matches the exterior paint choice. Nice touch, I like that. Then you've got the carbon fiber on the steering wheel, bottom parts, the center cap as well, which is nice. Different design for the steering wheel. Now it's very similar to what you've seen in the Taycan and the rest of the new Porsches. Really nice. And then you have 2 giant screens. There is one for the driver and there is one for the passenger. But I must admit something. For the driver, it's actually not easy to look at the screen, which is great because it's a safety feature. You don't have to focus on that screen. You want to focus on this screen. But it gives a lot of features to the passenger side, which I think is quite important. Then you've got the center area, which now doesn't have a shift knob anymore because it has been moved closer to the infotainment and the cluster. And then you have the cluster in the center, which now is a full digital screen. Now, having said that, I will admit something. I did appreciate the analog design. I think Porsche made one of the best analog designs in the business. But to add to that, one thing I noticed with this new design is that somehow it still looks a bit analog. What do I mean with that? Well, the way that they have done the layout looks very much like a 3D analog version of the original analog of 2022. Of course, there's a lot of settings that you can work on. Next thing I noticed is the needle. Now that's very important. See, in most cars, the needle for the RPM would stay, depends on where you have the throttle body position. So you have it like 1,000, 2,000 RPM. This needle, I noticed that it moves up and down very little. which makes it feel like very natural. And I appreciate that, because in most cars that use a digital cluster, the RPM needle stays where it should be, like 2000. Then if you remove the foot off the gas pedal, it just stays static, so there is no movement. This I absolutely love because it makes it feel natural. On top of that, the chrono clock in the center, the needle matches the needle of the RPM, but the colors are swapped. That's another thing I noticed. I love the little details, the extra effort that they put in cars. Then we've got a new dashboard design, as you can see, including the air vents for the passenger and the driver's side, and in the center. Absolutely love the little switches for the fan, the way they have shaped them, designed them. They're nice and grippy, which I appreciate. The stitching is another thing that I love about this. It matches perfectly with the exterior color. The Arctic gray has come into the interior as well, including the Turbo GT letters located on top of the headrest. Stitched, hand stitched in this case, I'm assuming. And then we've got the perforated leather with a suede in the center. You have a strap that goes from the bottom of the seat all the way to the top, which also matches the exterior color, the Arctic gray. Next thing is that this has a few driving modes. It has off-road, although I highly doubt anybody's going to take this off-road. And then you've got sport mode. In sport mode is, right now, it's still very violent in terms of the power, but it is more daily. And the exhaust is not as loud. It seems like it's halfway open. And then you put in Sport Plus, and the RPM jumped from 2,000 to 4,000. And then the transmission shifts faster. So it's more your track use mode in many ways. Oh, it's so good. Wow, what a car. Man, this thing gets from 0 to whatever, I'm not saying the number, so fast. Oh, God, I feel like a child. Downshift. It's so good. It actually drives like a Cayman, which is so weird. It doesn't feel like an SUV at all. You jump into a BMW X5 AM competition, you'd actually feel like you're driving an SUV. This feels like a small coupe. But it's large on the inside, which is kind of a bit of a contradiction from what I just said. But I think it's more to do with the driving dynamics of this car. Downshift. Oh. And you have so much confidence in this car. What I mean with that, the brakes are absolutely amazing. They glue you to the ground. And the handling is superb. And that sound, it's so good.
Now that we know that this handles and drives like a sports car, we know that this thing is very, very fast. We also know that it has a facelift for 2024. It is time to find out what it's like driving this as a daily.
Okay, so here we are. I have reset the trip to see how many kilometers we're going to get today. Fuel efficiency. The average I've done about 13 liters per 100 kilometers, which is actually not that bad. Keep in mind, I drive a lot in like sport or sport mode, sport plus. push it a little here and there, but overall just driving normally. We're gonna see how this thing is gonna handle. And when I find out this child is going to sleep, you see, this kid, he's very particular. It is right now 11:35 and he woke up around 8 a.m., which means between 11 to 12 he should get his daily nap for about 35 to an hour and 30 minutes sometimes, depends. I don't think he's gonna sleep an hour and 30 minutes. I can already feel the heavy breathing, which means he's getting ready to go for a quick nap. This is gonna be interesting. Now, there are... Okay, Papa. He doesn't like when the cars are very loud on the inside, so he won't sleep for long, or he's not gonna fall asleep that easy. And then he doesn't like when the car is loud, like exhaust, but also stiff right. He's gonna have a hard time sleeping. So let's see. I've tested him out before in other cars, not an actual on video, not on camera, but I have had him in other vehicles, and some vehicles he takes a long time to sleep, even in my own car. Let's see if this is gonna do. Well, I have the mirror set up at the back, which took some time to actually set it up, but I can see him from here. If he's falling asleep, he's just looking out the window, so this is going to be interesting. AC is a good temperature. It's about 18 degrees Celsius out there. It's raining, which means he should be able to fall asleep faster. Been 37 minutes and he's still awake. What? I think he's gonna sleep soon.
At 39 minutes, my son finally fell asleep, which definitely took longer than usual. We normally take him about 20 to 25 minutes to fall asleep. Or maybe my son knew that I was minding him for the day and decided to give me a run for my money. On the brighter side, I was able to achieve impressive fuel efficiency with him in the car at 10.3 liters per 100 kilometers, which is probably something most people will not really care. In Canada, the model shown will cost you $244,000, or about $180,000 USD. Although this SUV drives better than most sports cars and is probably the fastest SUV I have driven, I personally find it hard to justify spending that amount of money when I could purchase a base Cayenne and a base 911 for almost the same price as one Turbo GT. But then again, that's just me.